It's prediction time yet again, this time for Marvel Rivals Ignite mid-season finals LAN event in Los Angeles. And let me say, I think this is going to be the most bracket-busting event possible because I think this is going to be one of the most difficult things to ever predict, since there are teams that have had visa issues because it's in LA. So people from out of the country have had trouble with getting their visas approved, but also the game's been completely flipped on its head since group stages. We've had characters get reworks. Widow's seen a lot of play for stuff, and the team ups are in full swing for every character, and it's just been a very different look for a lot of people, and we haven't had a chance to really see these players in a competitive environment in their teams go at it with all these changes outside of a couple scrims. So I think that we do see upsets, and I think that we're definitely going to see people's brackets getting shattered time and time again. So we're going to do our best based off of how we're feeling about stuff overall, but let's get into it. First up, I am looking at Rejects and Rad to be the two teams that come out of the qualifiers. So there are 4 teams that have to qualify into the main event. Of those 4, only 2 go through. So I am looking at Rejects and Rad. 100 Thieves did manage to make it here for the qualifier, and I think that they will win in the lower initially, but there they will fall to Rad. Iconics not looking, they didn't look the best in group stages, and with all the changes that have happened, I really just don't know how they're going to perform and what their visa situation's looking like, so I'm not banking on them too much. 100 Thieves and Rad. So 100 Thieves, I do think 100 Thieves can make this in. I do think 100 Thieves can make it into the main event. However, I personally am going with Rad over 100 Thieves. I think Rad had a bit of a tough group stage, but they didn't have a coach during that time. And what they have picked up is a coach. They've picked up Dennis, the FlyQuest coach. So there you got a coach who has very in-depth knowledge of the NA teams. And I think that that is going to help give Rad an edge over 100 Thieves here. And I think that's going to be Rejects and Rad going into the main event. But again, I do very much so think 100 Thieves can make it in. So if you want to put 100 Thieves, by all means, I see no problem with it. Then over on into the main event. Unfortunately, I think Rejects are going to be immediately met with a loss. Going up against Na'Vi. I think Na'Vi are going to just be... Na'Vi is probably one of the few teams that are going to be thoroughly consistent every single time because they put in so much work, time, and practice collectively to be able to be at the top of their game. So Na'Vi, they're definitely going to be the team to keep your eyes on and the team to beat. Gen G versus VP. Okay, so this is one of those ones right away I think could go either way, because Gen G and VP tends to have a bit of a slow start with meta changes, and right now the game's been completely flipped on its head in terms of meta. However, Gen G is a team that we know had some visa issues, and so it's going to depend on who they get as substitutions to really determine how good Gen G is actually going to look here. Now, I am going to take Gen G initially because I do think Gen G, if they can have good substitutions, I think they can take care of VP. I think they can beat VP. Gen G is known to be a very good team, so I want to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they can beat VP in this first round before VP starts to get adjusted to the meta. TLC versus Rad. I'm going to say TLC. I think Rad is going to be able to maybe take a game off of them, but I think TLC overall is just going to be very dominant as well through this. It's a very good team overall, and I think that they're going to be a tough competitor through and through. Swamp Gaming versus OUG. This is one that I have so many mixed feelings about. Swamp Gaming looked weaker in group stages, period. They did not look as good from preseason as they did in group stage, and they weren't able to compete as well with TLC that time. So I think that they will win this. However, it's going to depend a little bit on OUG's situation and if everybody's through on their team. if everybody's through on OUG, I really do think there's a very real world where OUG beats Swamp Gaming, like 100%. Illicit being on that Black Cat and just everything that's been going on for that team. Magneto being really good at the moment is great for Wenshu, who is like proficient at being a Magneto player. And I think that there are just a lot of good things for OUG right now in this current situation. However, I think Swamp Gaming are really going to have a lot to prove here, and they're going to be putting in the work to make that happen and be able to prove, you know, that they are competing at the level that they're supposed to be, since they came up a little bit short during group stages. Then moving on into our lowers, Rejects and VP. This is tough. As much as I want to say Rejects win, I think VP do get it together and they advance here over Rejects. This honestly could go either way. It really does depend on whether or not VP gets it together with the meta and everything that's going on in the game. I still think they're a very good team, and they have every bit the ability to go the distance to the finals. But right now, it's going to be a bit of a toss-up for me, but I am going to put them over Rejects. I don't like the idea of Rejects going out so early, but I think they just got a really short end of the stick in terms of where they ended up in the bracket and the teams that they have to play going through this. So I think Rejects, unfortunately, drew a really tough bracket. Rad versus OUG. Oh, this is tough. This is tough. I think that this is also, again, a coin flip. I think this is a coin flip matchup. I think right now, I'd like to see OUG go, because I'd like to see some other foreign teams, you know, outside of EMEA and NA doing really well to increase that competitive scenario, that competitive scene, and get more teams involved, get other brands involved, other orgs, and just because the more competition you have from different regions, the healthier it is for the scene. If it's just dominated by, you know, one region time and time again, that's a very boring scene, and that's not healthy either. So I'd like to see them, but for now, I'm going to say Rad, because I do think the difference of having a coach is going to help them a lot. Plus, you know, there's a narrative here that I'm very much so pursuing as well. So that's just my personal stuff. By all means, go with who you want. I think Na'Vi take care of Gen G, unfortunately for Gen G. And then TLC, I actually think TLC just BTA's Swamp here at this stage. I would love for this to be an upset. I'd love for this to be an upset. If Gen G upset Na'Vi in some crazy world, that would be insane, and I would be all for it. But I do think TLC gives SG BTA, but we'll see. Could definitely be an upset here. Swamp Gaming versus VP. I think if Swamp Gaming is at this stage against VP, this is a really tough matchup for Swamp Gaming. I think VP could be a very difficult opponent for Swamp at this stage of MSF if this ends up being how their run goes. And I would have to say VP over Swamp. Gen G and Rad. Ooh. I want to see Rad make a run. I want to see Rad be a big competitor here. I really want Gen G to go far to push Pack region. But for now, I'm going to say Rad over VP. I really do think having a coach like Dennis is going to be a big uplifting factor for Rad in terms of preparation for their matches and just overall decision making that the team goes through. I think it's going to really help solidify what Rad is capable of. And that's where we get to the narrative bit of this, where we're going to say Rad somehow, some way, once again, send VP packing, ending the run once more. But that's where I think Navi beats TLC, TLC beats Rad, and then Navi TLC finals. I don't know. I'm gonna say Navi just because, but I do think that some of these are. I do think there's even a world where TLC beats Navi here, but then Navi obviously beats Rad, and then it's still TLC Navi finals. And I think Navi, either way, I think Navi 1, TLC 2. I think 3-4 is a coin flip in that regard. But man, this is tough. I mean, there's just so many unknown factors for the teams in terms of whether or not they're going to have all their roster members, whether or not their substitutions are good, how teams are going to be dealing with all of the meta changes and everything that's going on. It's just going to be a very difficult thing to determine. So by all means, these brackets are going to be chaotic. They're going to be messy. I think a lot of people are going to get stuff wrong. I think I'm going to get a lot of things wrong. I'm going to be so for real with you. I think I get a lot of things wrong, but on the chance that I don't, great, fantastic. And if I am wrong, all the better, because that means then a lot of other teams went further that I would have liked to have seen go further. Like Rejects, like OUG. Dude, if Iconics make it out of qualifiers, great, fantastic. I'm all for it, you know? But I do want to see pack teams go further in order to try and push that more competitive element in the pack region. But there's just such an optimization issue for that region because the game is just so poorly optimized and it's not a very good PC cafe friendly type game. So that's something that I'd like to see, but you know, we'll see how it all plays out. But those are going to be our predictions for the mid-season finals. You know, if 100 Thieves make it into qualifiers, they still have a very difficult road ahead, right? Unless they win through on the top side. I mean, then they play Navi, right? Which is really difficult. And then they'd have to play Gen G or VP here in lowers. Or if they end up, you know, here on the lower side of it, they have to play TLC in the first round. And then after TLC, they'd either play, well, they'd get to play OUG. So that would actually be a better matchup for them. So, I mean, hey, if they do win this over Rad and they're the team that advances, that actually, this is a better matchup for them. And they could be somewhere more around here overall. But this is what we're looking at for the MS finals. Let us know what you think. And we'll see how the predictions shake out overall. We'll catch you in the matches.